Over 1 year ago, I was making $40,000 a year. Today, I'm making about over $80,000 a year. So before I had my current job, I was working in the biopharma industry. And I was thinking, well, healthcare is pretty safe, but I was working one of those basic admin jobs. And I don't know if you guys noticed this, but they're pretty easy. If you know to click a couple buttons on a computer, do a basic Excel, a monkey could do it. So they don't have to pay that much. At the time, there was a hiring boom during COVID. So that's when I decided to get in. I'm like, okay, good time to get a job. But a lot of these corporations, they're very greedy. They don't want to pay their workers a lot. They want to save as much money as possible. So every year we'd be hiring more people and I'd come to find out that they're making more than me. Well, this is ridiculous. I'm here earlier than any of them and I have seniority. So that's when I decided to change. And at the time, the government shutdown was happening and they were overstating the job creation reports. It wasn't until the government reopened and they found out that there weren't a lot of jobs being created actually. So I figured, you know what, there's not a lot of time left. And I remember doing my research and finding out that construction, that was one of the industries that was actually increasing in demand. There's a lot of people that don't want to get their hands dirty because they think they're too good for that industry. And that's why you see a saturation in, let's say, white collar jobs. Everyone can do it. Everyone can just plug in formulas into ChatGPT and that does the work for you. So now that you have too much competition, it drove a lot of the wages down. That's why you have a lot of those basic white collar jobs getting paid less at McDonald's. And I remembered, what did I want to do with my life? I was curious. Well, I did like to work with my hands. I used to do remodeling for homes and just working with a bunch of boys, getting my sweat on, just doing physical labor, that really made me happy. So that's when I decided to make the leap to a different industry. So I was just randomly applying to different positions like project managers or any kind of office work until I came across this technician work. Well, they actually gave me a phone call back after, I don't know, 50 submissions, and understand that I wasn't getting callbacks, not until I used ChatGPT to refine my resume. So they liked what I had on my resume, and then they asked me for an interview. And I had to answer some math questions, and they were very impressed with how quick I answered them. Some cubic area questions, some surface area questions, and then I had to also take a quiz too on a piece of paper. They liked what I had to do, so they were okay with hiring me. They were happy about it. I also had 3 friends to use as a reference, and next thing you know, they were just ecstatic to have me on board. And I've been working hard, busting my butt, and you know, even word of mouth, they even tell my supervisor, like, oh, it's a pleasure to work with them. I eventually got 2 raises, and they're not your tiny measly raise of like 50 cents, 60 cents. No, it's more than $1, which was pretty surprising to me. And on top of that, there was plenty of overtime. If anyone's in construction, you know that there's plenty of overtime. So that increased my base salary. I suspect base is like maybe 60 to 70 and all the overtime's giving me, I don't know, an extra 10 grand or something like that. Anytime I can work, I do it. The problem with a lot of the corporate jobs is sometimes they can be so cheap and they don't want you to work overtime. The problem with a lot of these corporate jobs is they're trying to find the highest efficiency. What's the good sweet spot number of grunt employees that we can pay the least, that we can get the maximum output? And then of course eradicate any overtime, because that's just a waste of money. They can get whatever they need done within the first 4 hours of their job. That's literally how they think, guys. They're not thinking about your well-being. They're not thinking about your finances. They're not thinking about your long-term goals, having a family. They don't care. When you're working for a smaller business, they pay more attention to you. Heck, a lot of the time they even remember your name. If you ask them for a raise, they're more than likely gonna give it to you, because anyone who works in a small business, they treat it like a family. In a corporate, no. It's literally just hierarchies on hierarchies and hierarchies. You're just a number. You're just a cog in the wheel. And I've seen it where I am in a smaller business, if you need a raise, they'll give it to you. Over there in the corporate, they'll tell you some excuse like, oh, wait till the merit increase, or wait till, I don't know, April. That's what they like to do. They like to wait right before the tax season ends. And then on top of that, my current employer, they gave me an extra $4,000 for my retirement. So now I'm putting that towards my 401k account that I opened with them, and I'm constantly contributing. So they actually care about me, guys, and they give us bonuses. It's amazing. A lot of these stack on top of each other. So eventually I would have never thought I'd be making this money. I'm pretty comfortable. I feel stable. Eventually, I'm going to reach the point where I'm making $100,000 like a lot of my other coworkers who've been there for a while. They seem to reward loyalty. So guys, you're probably wondering why I'm wearing sunglasses indoors, and that's to conceal my identity. Perhaps once I reach $100,000, maybe I'll do a face reveal. Now, if your goal is to make it to $100,000, I highly suggest that you like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Because when you're around content like this, when you're around a community, when you're around information that's constantly reminding you to make it to $100,000 and giving you advice and tips, you're eventually going to make it. All right, guys, I want you to have a nice day. Peace.